Right now, it is time to bring in Jim Lynch and cover your assets. Jim is an independent voice on Wall Street, the economy, and politics, bringing well over 40 years of experience to those subjects and more. And the rumor is not true. He is not the next coach of the New York Giants. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning.
Coach
Good
Lynch.
morning. Actually, no.
He is.
The Jets. The Jets.
Well,
Belichick and the Giants. I don't know. I don't know about that. Go ahead.
Why do you say Bill Belichick and the Giants? Is there a story on it or something?
Oh, yeah.
Here's
The rumor is that Belichick his contract's up. He might go to the Giants, particularly if Brady stops playing, which he probably will. It's documented, and they're talking about him taking his general manager and his assistant with him.
Well, Jim, here's the funny thing, and this is going to be a strange start to the final show of the year. But here's the strange thing: about a year ago, I saw a documentary of Belichick. Okay, and he was walking in Giant Stadium.
Right.
And he was saying, I've got just nothing but great memories about this place. The Maras, the blah. I really, I have nothing but good memories about the Giants, even though we lost 2 Super Bowls to them. I just love this place. And I've said in my background, in my mind all the time, that if Tom Brady retires, Bill Belichick is not going to continue, in my opinion, will not continue with the Patriots. He just won't. It'll be time for a change. And the one team he would love to go to would be the Giants. And the Giants, that's why when they say they haven't fired Gettleman yet, the general manager, if they wait and they find out that Belichick wants out, they'll give draft picks to New England. They'll give draft picks to New England to get Belichick. Belichick will come in and basically, whether or not they have a general, he'll be the defunct general manager and head coach.
De facto.
And de facto head coach, and it would be the best thing in the world for the Giants. It would be. Do you remember when the Giants were so bad? It was 25 years of lousy football, Jim.
Yep.
And the NFL demanded the Giants, because they're one of the major franchises. They brought in a guy by the name of George Young as a general manager.
Yeah, sure.
And George Young was from Baltimore. They brought in Bill Parcells. When Bill Parcells' first year, he had a terrible record. He won like 3 or 4 games. But after that first year, the Giants were always contenders. And they were a stable franchise from that point on. Well, in the past 6 years, they've had 5 coaches now. Haven't had a winning record in 7 years. And it's time for someone to step in. It's time for Mr. Tisch and for Mr. Mara, the younger guys that took over.
Well, if they did that, by the way,
it's time for them to step in and get back to the way the Giants should be.
I was just going to say, if the youngins did that, it would be a real coup.
So we'll see what happens. But nothing's out of the question. But it all really depends on Tom Brady. That's what it all really depends on. So.
Yeah, and based on the way Tom has been throwing the ball, I'd speculate that he will not show up on his own, because, it's not so much that he's done so well and is so good and done so many victories or finished so many victories. Rather, he really knows in his heart he doesn't have it anymore, which at 42 is not hard to believe in professional football. So I do think that the train is beginning to start moving in the direction of possibly Belichick going to the Giants. And it's overly due in terms of getting some great person in there, because, let's face it, we're a big market team. And for us to play the way we've been playing, they probably did wait a little too long by Eli. But I always complimented them that there's a certain amount of loyalty in everything. And they were being loyal to him. After all, the guy had 2 Super Bowl wins. But it's time for major operation, starting with a transfusion of talent. And Belichick would be perfect. And I think you underscored it very nicely with where his head was at and is at. After all, this is a game. It's a very professional game, but it is a game of emotions.
Yeah.
You don't get up and go out and every week as a cultural player and do this thing. It's brutal. So you have to love it. So let's hope for the best. I really hope for the best.
And they got a great young quarterback and a great young running back right now, and just bring in it's wishing right now, but it is a possibility because this would be Bill Belichick's last chance if he wanted to become coach of the Giants. Because if they hire a new coach now, it's not going to come in time. So we'll see what happens.
No, you're absolutely right on the timing.
Yeah.
The timing couldn't be more perfect.
Yeah.
Belichick can gracefully move from the Patriots based on Tom Brady leaving. So they've been very good to him, but it's a nice segue. And secondly, you mentioned the young men, the quarterback and the running back. They need a new, fresh face to school them, to help them, to work with their coaches, to develop them, because they certainly do have the talent. They certainly have the talent.
Barkley missed most of the year, and he still wound up with over 1,000 yards. And Daniel Jones, quite frankly, had some of the best statistics for a rookie quarterback. I mean, unbelievable for a team that was lousy. His statistics were absolutely unbelievable. So we'll see what happens. But let's put that in the back burner and say.
New York Post yesterday, Bill Belichick to Giants scenario would make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
yesterday.
so
Happy New Year.
Yes.
Now, speaking of Happy New Year, before Jim starts, it is officially New Year's in Auckland, New Zealand. So it's January 1st. It's 2 in the morning. Let's go.
Well, don't you know? Jim's in Auckland. He flew there for.
It took him a while.
Yeah. Hey, Jim. Happy New Year.
I was working with those animals who've been endangered. They sent me because they felt I was endangered, and I'd be in good company. Okay, enough frivolity.
Yes, all right.
Yes. I hate to do this, but I have to do it because, I do have over 47 years of experience.
That's right.
Listen to me now. AHM, a channel on the internet, they have episodes on dictators. And I don't know why I think it was Grace that... I don't know, for some reason I switched it on yesterday, and there was the episode on Hitler. And it is mind-boggling to see how Trump is playing out, or has played out, Hitler's playbook in terms of the use of not only the lies, but the prejudices and the various and sundry negatives that we've been seeing, and I really needn't repeat to you. So I would be very hopeful that those folks who have voted for Trump, and I mean it sincerely, go, and there are a number of episodes that are very readily available. And you look at that, and you make a comparison, and then you get yourself ready to figure out, look, maybe I made a mistake. The point is, making a mistake is the easiest thing in the world. Correcting it psychologically can be very difficult. But folks, we've got to look it in the eye. We cannot be distorted by the tax cut, which for individuals will end in 2025. We have to look more to the deficit, which is up 50% since Trump took office. We have to look at interest rates probably going higher because of the need to sell more bonds. And so some of the positives that individuals enjoyed will be mitigated over the next couple of years. But probably as significantly is the tracking of Trump's way of getting involved militarily, frequently at a whim. Sometimes I guess planned with his buddy Putin. But my God in heaven, we're fighting everywhere in the world. And I thought we were supposed to lay back and not become the savior to the world. Now, President Trump, or candidate Trump, ran on that very thing. He said, I don't want to be involved in all these conflicts throughout the world. He's gotten us more and more involved. He's aggravated the situation. This North Korean thing, I mean, if we had left it alone, basically we gave this fella, Kim, a place in history, in the current history, which he didn't deserve nor did he have. And we're just creating things that are festering. So please do yourself a favor. If he ever were to get reelected, I think a lot of people would have a lot of trouble in their head having contributed to that.
Yeah. No, it's I'm listening to your talk there, and I want to get your opinion on something, and it's what happened in West Virginia. I'm not sure if you heard what happened in West Virginia, where a whole new, recently graduated corrections officers were all fired by the governor. And why were they fired? Because in a picture, in their class photo, they did a Nazi salute.
Right.
And the governor, on top of firing all of those recruits, fired a staffer at the Corrections Officer Academy, the third staffer to be fired in the scandal, and suspected 4 instructors without pay for failing to report the picture. His quote was, "This kind of behavior will not be tolerated on my watch in any agency for any state government. We have a lot of good people in the Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety, but this incident was completely unacceptable." The photo made national news about a week or two ago. I don't know if you saw 2 instructors and a cadet were fired right off the bat, and now 34 other people, including everybody else in the photograph, were also fired. What I say for it is, whether or not they were doing this jokingly or not, if you wanted to do something jokingly, you can't do it nowadays because it will get out on the internet. 2, it just shows how today's atmosphere has opened up hate in a certain way, and people now feel it acceptable between social media and today's climate that it's okay to do something like this. When you just become a police officer, or when you become a corrections officer, it's not the time to do something like that. But in today's society, unfortunately, a lot of people think it is.
But you've had 20 years of, unfortunately, social media. Something we never talk about, and Marshall, you know this much more than I do, but I'm always staggered that it's out there. What is called where the really grimy, grotesque, miserable, horrendous stuff happens on the internet. What's that called? Because there's a whole other unit. What we're dealing with is chicken feed comparatively. Where body parts can be trafficked and people can be killed and all that good stuff.
What has been the unmovable what has been the interaction to this is the president's stance on a lot of things on race and what has happened, and it has almost opened up Pandora's box to once again re-release people thinking it's okay. I'm not saying if you want to be a Nazi, if you want to be a hater, I can't tell you not to be. That's not what this country's about, because that's not what this country's about. But you can't, as a civil servant or anything like that, you can't bring those things with you.
Well, you can't exercise that pathetic judgment if you are going to be in these positions, period.
But in today's political society and social media society, it has become acceptable.
It doesn't, no, I don't think it is acceptable.
It's not, but it's become acceptable to allow people.
It's become accepted. It's become accepted.
Accepted. People now think they can do it.
Okay.
Right.
It is not okay. And the President of the United States of America made it okay. Who ever heard a president of the United States using the F word, the S word, she's fat, there's my token, and people, whether they were inclined that way or not, they get sloppy and they feel, well, it's a joke. It's not a joke, folks. This is one of the problems where we are now. A lot of people kept trying to excuse Trump. Oh, he's joking. Oh, he's silly. Oh, he has a strategy. Well, he has nothing but evil. EVIL. Look it up if you don't understand it. That's what this man is preaching. He would sell his mother if he had to for money or for power. And that's a pretty harsh statement. But frankly, I really, really, truly believe it. But the thing is, we as individuals, do you recall Trump was on television and he was giving a speech and he started mocking a journalist a Hispanic journalist who had some physical disability, and there was the President of the United States acting like he was disabled in some way on television. It lasted for a minute or so. It's been repeated. That is one of the outstanding things in my memory. How in the name of God can anybody do it? But more importantly, how can we tolerate it? If you have a disabled child or you know somebody or you give charity to disabled people, stand up, will you, for God's sake, and let's get on with this thing. This idea of fighting over rules, whether the guy should be impeached or not, he's getting us deeper and deeper into war, and we will have more economic problems and everything else, yet we tolerate this behavior.
And here's what I put. I was in high school. I was an early, right out of high school, went into radio, and in my early years, I did stupid things. Every person does something they regret, but they regret it. They regret it, and it's a mistake, and they try to spend time not ever doing anything like that again. What happens in today's society is it's not students in high school or early. It's people going to become police officers. It's people going to be. They don't understand who they have to be in the job they have to be, and they don't understand the difference between right and wrong anymore.
And also, sorry to interject, but what happens is in this environment where everything is where people are basically photographing themselves, which is always a bad idea for perspective. There's nothing that gives there aren't the consequences for really poor choices and decisions, since you can sue. Don't resonate the same way that they once did.
They don't resonate because of what's going on in the top tier of politics. And I include Congress, the Senate now, and the President of the United States, because they've allowed this has been allowed to develop, and people sitting as a civil service recruit, becoming a cop or becoming whatever, a fire, they think that those actions are now acceptable because they see it performed on a daily basis. And our leaders.
You're right, and it's been going on for ages. I saw something yesterday that just stunned me. Do you realize that I'm sure you do. I'm sure you know this, Jim, and I'm sure you know this too, that there was a real concerted Republican effort to keep the hostages, the Iranian hostages, in Iran until after Reagan was inaugurated? I had no idea. No idea. They weren't going to negotiate with Carter.
That's absolutely true.
I know, but
that's absolutely true.
How's that for problem solving? That's a great example. How many years ago was that?
And Iran-Contra, okay?
I understand.
Yes.
What I'm saying is it's not okay. I'm saying it's not okay, and perhaps this generation, by engaging, this next lot, by engaging, will hold their public servants to a higher, more responsible standard, which, again, is going to be really hard given all the money that's sloshing about.
Well, that's the key, and that's where Ukraine and Russia and Saudi Arabia come in. They're at the top of the pile in terms of buying people in this country. And then as you work down after them into lower levels, there are people throughout the world who are doing illegal things, who are helped and sponsored by people in this country, in the Congress, in the Senate, and in corporations. Marshall said a very simple thing, but it is so powerful. They don't understand right from wrong. Now, if you put that on the wall and just think about it for 5 or 10 minutes and really get into how can civil society prosper and go forward if that is the underpinning of the psychology, of the moral compass of our people? How did it happen? It really doesn't matter right now why it happened. It happened. Now, education is one way, but it starts from the top. When you have somebody who has stolen money every minute of his life to get power, and he has created a virus in our Congress and Senate, with so many of them are on the take, And the thing is, once they were on the take for local corporations, U.S. citizens, it was horrible. But now they've expanded themselves because of these sanctions in Ukraine and Russia and elsewhere. Those people can't get their money out. Well, they figured a way how to get the money out, and that's using the U.S. Congress and wealthy individuals and corporations. We do need a major upheaval in this government, and it's not just eliminating President Trump. It's getting rid of X amount of politicians, particularly on the Republican side, because they basically said they are not going to be impartial in doing their duty, an oath to the Constitution, to evaluate whether the president did right or wrong. I'm not going to say right or wrong. I'm just going to say they are not going to be impartial. What kind of country environment can we have if kids, people, seniors, everybody says, well, they're not going to do anything? What does that do? It certainly demoralizes people. It makes them sloppy. It makes them forget to think. It makes them forget to discipline their kids.
It's just it's going to take a long time for this country. Well, Jim, we're out of time already. We only have about 10 seconds. Holy smokes. I just looked up at the clock. We have about 10 seconds.
All right. Happy New Year. Love to all. God bless the United States of America. We'll get through this damn thing.
All right. Happy New Year to your family, Jim.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. And your family as well.
All right. That's, of course, Cover Your Assets with Jim Lynch.